Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 541 for the 18th of August for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. Do press the like button, subscribe. If you haven't do it, please do it. And let's start off with the Kupyansk front. At the Kupyansk front, this is Kupyansk. The Russian forces are somewhat continuing their Kupyansk offensive. They are still being reported to be attacking in SYNKIVKA region. But the Russians are not forthcoming about where they are attacking per se. The only one that was mentioned is SYNKIVKA. Largely, they are only reporting more on the Ukrainian counterattacks in this area here, which means that the Russians are indeed attacking in these directions. So there is fighting reported at SYNKIVKA on the 18th of August, which is yesterday, reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. They also mentioned a number of places we will probably go through in a while. And the counterattack is also reported at Vyshana and also at Mykilske. However, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Russians are attacking at the SYNKIVKA area. And Ryba reported that the Russians are squeezing the Ukrainian forces out of the SYNKIVKA village. And tentatively, the fighting is coming from the eastern side. So the Russian forces are attacking in this direction, reportedly squeezing out the Ukrainians. But of course, take this with a pinch of salt because not enough information, to be honest. And there is reinforcement reported within the region as the Ukrainians try to hold back the Russian offensive. There's reinforcement reported south of Liman Pershi. Liman Pershi is this one, and the Ukrainian forces are reinforcing, probably to SYNKIVKA, to be honest, in the way how they reported it. And our reinforcement was also reported at Petropavlivka. This is all reporting from the pro-Russian sources. And so the reinforcement coming to these directions. Petropavlivka is likely to hold back the Russian advance in this area here. And so that's all from the Kupyansk front. Yeah, that's about it. All the other icons of the fighting around the region is largely there's no more fighting around this area here. Moving on to the Svatove front. This is Svatove. At the Svatove front, we have Ukrainian counterattacking at Novokalynove. This is according to the Russian Defense Ministry in the same report. The Ukrainians are counterattacking at Novokalynove. Largely, the town, the village, or the flattened settlement is still under Russian control. The Ukrainians have not broke through just yet. And that's all from the Svatove front. The fighting reported at Kreminna is no more. So that's definitely that's it. Over at the Kreminna front, this is Kreminna, then the Kreminna front is this. At the Kreminna front, we have fighting reported in the western part of Dibrova. The last fighting was reported on the 14th, so it's around 4 to 5 days. There's no fighting around this region, or at least it is not reported. And now we are seeing that the Ukrainians are attacking again towards Dibrova. Interestingly, there's also fighting reported over here. This is a fighting reported at Grigorovka, which is Hryhorivka over here. And most likely, I think the fighting is in the river system around here rather than in the south. So it's probably in this area here. Nothing much we know about. And moving into the Siversk front, at the Siversk front, Siversk front is actually like this. The Russian forces is reportedly attacking Bilohorivka in the Luhansk region, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. This is Bilohorivka, and most likely they are fighting from this industrial area here in the southeastern part of Bilohorivka, which is where the Russians have control. Also, although the Russians did also capture all of this forest line in the northeastern part of Bilohorivka. We shall see how this goes. Bilohorivka is that kind of a place where the Russians struggles to capture. And that's all from the Siversk front. Not much to be reporting. Over at the Bakhmut front, this is the Bakhmut front is like this. This is Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported in the northeastern part of Orikhovo-Vasilivka. And this is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Most likely is talking about some Russian push along the highway in this area here. Previously, we have reports of Ukrainian forces attacking from Mykilske direction towards Zaporizhzhia, and maybe this is the Russians are counter-attacking, probably. But that's all we know. As the Ukrainian Defense Ministry don't really talk much about it. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported towards Bilahora. This is Bilahora. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that there is fighting in the east of Bilahora, and Bilahora is a bit far from the front line, so probably it's just in this direction. Although they could have just say, you know, northwestern part of Kupyansk, but you know, they don't want to say that. There is geolocation of Russian forces at this position. A infantry fighting vehicle was struck by a drone at this location where the Russians are holding positions. So at least we know that the Russians are actually holding these forest lines north of Zelenopilia or Kupyansk, which is here. So that kind of tells us that the Russians are still there. And that's all. The Ukrainian attack around the Kupyansk region or Zaporizhzhia region is no longer reported. And there is reports of fighting towards Donetsk. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They say that there is fighting in the area of Donetsk, but Donetsk is actually over here. Even if you look at the city, it's still pretty far away from the front line. So it's a bit of quite liberal way of reporting. Probably fighting is around this Mykilske region. This is Mykilske, and so the Russians are probably pushing in this direction. But I would not put much on it based on my experience reporting on the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's reporting. Moving into the Avdiivka front, this is Avdiivka city. There is some interesting report in the northern part of the Avdiivka front. There is Ukrainian Defense Ministry report of Russian offensive operation in the southeast and east of Novokalynove. So this is Novokalynove, and the Russians are apparently attacking from the east and the southeastern part towards Novokalynove. And this has not been reported for a long time. The closest we had was actually the 17th of August report of the Russians attacking towards Kreminna. So this is actually something fresh. We shall see whether this will end up into a serious offensive or not. There is Ukrainian attack reported in the Avdiivka region. There's not much details from the Russian Defense Ministry. Similarly, Ukraine also do the same thing. They say that there's fighting. The Russians are attacking in the Avdiivka region. Also didn't mention exactly where. So that's all from the Avdiivka front. And moving into the Donetsk front, we have the usual. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that the Russians are attacking at Krasnohorivka and at Marinka. So Krasnohorivka and Marinka. But this time around, something's new is that the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Ukrainians were attacking at Marinka. So it's been a long time since the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned about the Ukrainians attacking Marinka. So yeah, but it's not going to be something important, I guess. Over at the Vuhledar region, this is Vuhledar. At the Vuhledar region, there is reports of fighting at Mykilske. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the Vostok group of forces reported that they were attacked by the Ukrainians, and the Russians attacked the Ukrainian forces with airstrike, artillery, flamethrower systems against the Ukrainian attack close to Mykilske, which is actually Mykilske. So the Ukrainian forces were attacking, and they got shot and attacked by the frontline troops. And that's all we know. Let's see if the Ukrainians will continue this attack. So moving on into the Zaporizhzhia front. This is the Zaporizhzhia front, and at the Velika Novosilka sector, this is Velika Novosilka, there is continued fighting around Uruzhaine. So this time around, we do not have the reports of Ukrainian attack towards Zavinia Bazania. So this time round, the Russians are on the counter. They are attacking in the area of Uruzhaine, as the fighting is being reported in this area here. The Russian Defense Ministry's Vostok group of forces reported that the forward units, with the support of artillery and an airstrike, inflicted fire damage on Ukrainian near Uruzhaine. Someone in the comments said it's supposed to be pronounced as Uruzhaine, because ZH is supposed to be a J, so Uruzhaine. And so the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also mentioned the same thing. They corroborated the Russian Defense Ministry's report. So the both Defense Ministry reported the same thing, that the Russians are attacking the Ukrainians in Uruzhaine. And Uruzhaine, no, erotic Jaine. Yeah. So they're on the eastern part of erotic Jaine. There is you. I actually confused myself with my joke. Okay, the Ryba reported, the pro-Russian source reported that the infantry groups, the 37th Brigade, engaged with rifle battles with the 37th Motorized Brigade. So interesting, both are the 37th. Although I'm not too sure, I think the 37th Brigade is the Russian one, the 37th Motorized. I'm not sure who is who, but basically I'm not sure who is who. But so the Ukrainians are attacking in the eastern part. And we do have geolocations of the front line at this position. Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, show a video where they geolocated to be around this area here. And the video footage also showed this island of forest in this area here, showing that the Ukrainians are storming the forest. Apparently there's some underground bunker kind of thing in this area. So yeah, but it looks like the Ukrainians managed to clear it. So tentatively it's still pretty much a gray zone. And so it seems like the front line isn't exactly that close to Zaporizhzhia. It's still pretty much around this area. This is the front line. And yeah, so that's all we know. If the Russians are counterattacking in the area of Uruzhaine, definitely they are not in the Uruzhaine. The Russians are not counterattacking into Uruzhaine just yet. Not yet. It's still in the outskirts. Over at this counterattack is also part of a counterattack by the Russians. No, it could be a fire mission. It could be a counterattack. Because of the way how they write it, it's a bit hard to tell. This was also implemented in Staromayoske region. And yeah, sorry. So the Staromayoske was a Ukrainian attack. Because the Russians say that they repelled an enemy attack close to Staromayoske. So the Ukrainians are attacking, the Russians are attacking, then the Ukrainians are attacking over here. So yeah, so that's what it is. Was a bit confused, so sorry. And there's nothing else over in this area of Novokalynove, Rivnopil. However, we do have Ukrainians attacking Pryune. According to the pro-Russian source Ryba, reported there was a series of attack on Pryune over here. There's not much details about this, so no, that's about it from the Velika Novosilka sector. Over at the Orikhiv sector, we have a Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 shot down over Maratomashka. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. There was another one much further away. Yeah, sorry, it's at Virolubivka over here. This one is all the way in the western direction of Bakhmut city. This one was shot down by the Russian Air Force. So that's all we know. At the Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces continue their storming of Robotine. Ukrainian forces are continuing to surge into the town from the northeastern part of northeastern direction. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry say that they repelled 2 attacks. That's all we know about it. The killings, I don't know how many equipments and how many men destroyed, it's not important because we cannot verify that kind of information. Ryba, the pro-Russian source, reported with more details. They say that the Ukrainians tried to break through the northeastern outskirts of Robotine, and they also attacked in the strongholds in the eastern part of Robotine. The attacks did not work out. The Ukrainians rotate, replace the wounded troops. Then the Russians shell these Ukrainian positions. Then in the morning, I'm not sure this morning refers to what. Maybe it refers to the 19th of August, which is today. I'm not sure. They say that the Ukrainians tried again, this time around with the airborne troops. However, they got struck by the Russian artillery again, and that's about it. That's all we know. So they did emphasize that the Ukrainians are using the same kind of tactics, infantry with periodic sorties of armored vehicles. So it's still pretty much a infantry game that at Robotine, which is pretty much working for the Ukrainians thus far. The fighting reported on the eastern part of Robotine was reported as well, but that's all we know. It's just a one-liner. So that's all from Robotine. Oh, there's one more. There's one more in the southwestern part of Novokalynove. According to SYTREP maps, they reported that the Ukrainians did some small advance along the highway. They managed to penetrate little bit in this direction along the highway in the southwestern part of Novokalynove. And that's about it. It's just a small thing. And that's it from the Orikhiv sector. We have nothing over at the Kherson front. And so there's one more report that is non-military per se. Okay, the Ukrainians are now using a new shipping route. So the cargo ships and everything, previously they are supposed to be this grain deal. The Russians are supposed to guarantee the routes, and then the ships can travel safely. Apparently, you don't need the Russian guarantee because according to Ryba, the vessels coming into this Donetsk River, the Ukrainian vessels and cargo ships can just travel along the territorial seas of Romania, and they can still travel out to the Mediterranean. Which then bring into question why the hell you need the grain deal, right? So unless they are purely about Odessa, which they have to travel in this direction. So tentatively, all the vessels are now traveling from around this Donetsk River along the territorial seas through Istanbul and out of the to the Mediterranean, and that's it. So, and I fact checked this information, and actually it seems to be correct. So if you look at let's refresh. This is the latest information. You can see that along the Donetsk River. Can I make this bigger? Let me see. Oh, I cannot. Okay. So yeah, this is the free version. So no, that's all we can do. So you can see that along the Donetsk River, there is actually a lot of vessels moving in and out in this area. So this is the border between Romania and Ukraine, and you can see that vessels are moving pretty normally across the river network. A lot of ships are waiting outside, and then the ships all just travel along the territorial waters of Romania and Bulgaria, and no one needs to be around this area here. So it seems to be pretty much okay, for the Ukrainians, just that they cannot use their ports at Odessa and Mykolaiv. So this is corroborated. So yeah, so so much talk about the grain deal. All the Ukrainians need to do is just send all the grain to along the Danube River, and they can still send out their stuff. So not too bad actually for the Ukrainians. And there's additional information about the surface drone attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which we have reported yesterday. Ryba reported there is some unusual stuff. They are not sure where these manned boats come from, and they previously thought that it's coming from the mouth of the Danube River, but then after that they say that they are not so sure. And then they observed that there was this ship called the Joseph Shelter that was moving to the Bosphorus Strait, and they now assume that there might be a possibility that the drone come from this cargo ship, and it seems like the target of this drone was actually a tanker that was actually escorted by these Russian vessels. So they kind of have this possibility, this thought that the possible attack target is actually this tanker and not the Russian vessels. So anyway, they say that while the attack, there was also the American P-8 Orion and the MQ-9A Reaper drone that was actually monitoring this entire operation. So, but that's it. No, this just a lot of hypotheses. None of this is concrete, but it does shows a possibility of how the Ukrainians can actually do this operation, which is, I think, quite interesting. So that's all from the summary itself. Just some conclusion. The Ukrainian forces are still trying at Robotyne coming from the southwest. They are still attacking in the eastern part, and they are still trying to push and expand the control zone to as big as they can actually manage to handle. So there is that's all. It's interesting to see two Sukhoi 25 getting shot down. I'm not sure if the Ukrainian Air Force has been operating them lately. Maybe they did not, because we didn't have a Ukrainian aircraft shot down for a very long time. So it might be that the sorties were lesser, or they are not used, and then now they are being used because they needed additional support. But I'm not sure. Of course, these are all my hypothesis. The interesting thing at Uruzhaine in the Velika Novokalynove sector was the Russians doing this counter while the Ukrainians are attacking as well. And the reports are on at Uruzhaine despite the declaration by non-governmental organizations that Uruzhaine has fallen to the Ukrainians. Ukrainian Defense Ministry actually had not celebrated the capture of Uruzhaine. They have not. In fact, even in their report, they are still talking about the Russians are attacking in the Uruzhaine region, which they did not mention exactly where. So I find that pretty interesting. And I also would say that the fighting at Mykilske starting again is interesting. The Ukrainians, I thought that they have given up. They give it a try again. So that's interesting as well. The other one that was, I think, something to take note of is actually this Russian attack towards Novokalynove in the east and southeast. Previously, there was an attack towards Kreminna. So this area is starting to heat up for the Russians on the Russian side. Let's see how this goes. I wonder if this will become a proper offensive. As Bakhmut front is pretty quiet, to be honest. All these mostly are just skirmishes. Even this fighting reported in the northeastern part of Vasilivka, I think is just going to be skirmishes. Nothing much in the Kreminna front. Bilohorivka is as usual, is very boring. So coming to the Kupyansk front, the Russian offensive is still ongoing, and it seems like it's still progressing, but because the Russians are protecting their operational secrecy, they are not giving details. They only say that they have have advances, or attacks in the area of Kupyansk and Svatove, but they're not giving details. As a result, I cannot even map all this information in, despite I saw the information, and I'm depending on the other like Ryba to give additional information, but no one really have much. Largely the information is all about Ukrainian counter-attacking the Russian forces, but the word they use is counter-attack, which is important, because counter-attack means that there was actually a main attack, and the main attack is the Russians attacking, and this also helps to give us a direction of where the Russians are actually pushing, and the Ukrainians are definitely reinforcing their position to try to hold back this offensive. But that's all we do know about the Kupyansk offensive, and I think this is about it. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.